Hey, Josh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Great. Thanks for calling in right on time. Is your day going okay so far?
so far so good. How
So
about
far,
you?
no complaints here. It's cold in New York. It's colder than it should be. Am I getting you right outside Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Aurora, which is about an hour outside of Chicago.
The City of Lights, Aurora?
Yeah, the city of, whenever I tell somebody I live in Aurora, they say, oh, Wayne's World. Which,
Exactly. Wayne's World, one of those movies that was filmed in Canada, but they pretend like it's Chicago.
exactly. Yeah, it was not filmed in Aurora, but the characters supposedly live in Aurora.
Exactly. Well, I'm a longtime fan. Discovered you the first time around at the Smoking Popes when you were doing the Duvall thing. You played a gig on Long Island in a bad club, and I got to see you do that. Got to see different stuff that the Smoking Popes did when you came back. So it's wonderful to see the Hideout Sessions happen. And most live albums don't sound this good. You know, I'm a big live album guy. Kiss Alive, we now know, is kind of studio doctored. Cheap Trick at Budokan, we know, is a little studio doctored. Your album isn't. That's amazing. How did you guys get so tight? A lot of rehearsing?
We did rehearse a lot. We had, what's the number? It was something like 43 days from the time of our first rehearsal till the time we recorded it. But during those 43 days, we recorded, we rehearsed quite a bit. Like, I don't know. We started out doing it once a week, and then we went to twice a week, and we just kept, at first it was the process of figuring out what songs we wanted to do.
Right.
So I would show up with these ideas of, hey, let's try this, let's try that. And some of them didn't make the cut, and some of them, our original approach to the song wasn't working, so we had to try a different arrangement. And then we got locked into an actual set list, and then we would just get together and just run through the set list top to bottom and just tighten everything up.
Did you know outright that you were going to be doing the dual duty of singing lead and lead guitar?
Yeah, that was the whole idea.
Well, you never know, because you have played in bands where there was a second guitar player. Some people kind of get off on that energy of having to do everything, and then other people kind of hate it because, how do I sing and think and shred at the same time? Your solos are really spot on this release. There are not flub notes, and it sounds like it's you. So kudos on all that rehearsal.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it paid off. We knew that we were going to go into a situation where whatever we did was going to be captured, and we were gonna be stuck with it, because we did not want to do overdubs and studio fixes and things like that.
Yeah.
So we luck favors the prepared, as they say.
Or as Arsenio Hall has been known to say, when talent meets opportunity, luck happens. However you want to approach it. So it's a cool set list in that it's part Popes, it's part covers, like it covers your whole career. Was there pressure on you to have to do that, or was that not even a thought of how do I keep everyone happy?
No, there was no pressure, because there were no other parties involved that had any expectations. This was an idea that came from me, and I just reached out to John and asked them if they wanted to start making some music. And I contacted Tim Tutton at the Hideout and asked him if we could do a show there. And when we did that, we didn't have a label connection yet. I didn't know who was going to put it out. We just we did it. I think I talked to Ken at Pravda,
Mm-hmm.
like 1 or 2 days before we actually recorded the show, and he said that was interested and was going to be watching, but we hadn't locked in anything yet. So when I did the show, I was just doing so kind of in faith that eventually it would come out as an album. So that's different than, I mean, we have been in a situation where we have a contract with a label, and you've got an A&R guy kind of involved in the process, and they have a bunch of expectations about what your music is supposed to sound like. I don't particularly enjoy that. I would rather be the one who's sort of generating the expectations.
Yeah, it sounds like a great part of your career to be in, where you could do as little or as much as you want on your own terms, no expectations. I don't know if supplementary is the right word, but when you want to do it, people listen, and that's that. When exactly did it get to be that? Like 08, 07, somewhere around there?
It depends on the era of our career. I mean, we started out that way. You start out that way as a band. You just decide that you're doing this for fun, and you know, if you want to write music, you write music. Nobody's asking you to do that. And but then as things go on, you sort of develop this machinery around it, where there are you know, once you've put out an album or two and you have a label involved, they're like, okay, here's when we'll be expecting the next bunch of songs from you. And then you have, it becomes, I don't know, it puts a weird kind of pressure on the creative process.
Yeah.
So we had that in the 90s, you know, once we signed to Capitol, and then we broke up for a while, took a break for a few years. And when we came back, you know, we recorded our reunion show at the Metro and released that as a live album. And then as soon as we did that, there was a lot of kind of attention on what we were doing. And there was this expectation that there was going to be another album. So it threw us into another era where there was like pressure on what we were doing, and the album, we felt like it had to be a lot of things, you know. It had to represent who the Popes were, but where the Popes are going, and we had all these different groups of people in mind when we were trying to make that record. And I don't think it helped the record making process. It just sort of bogged it down. I'm a lot happier when we don't have that sort of thing, and I can just, you know, I can just sort of, I don't know, like writing in a vacuum or doing some sort of a creative process that people don't even know about.
Right. Separating art and commerce probably would be a lot more relaxing than ever hearing the word fourth quarter associated with creative thoughts.
Right, but then the problem is that you create something and you put it out there and you want it to do well commercially.
Yeah.
And so you're always trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Well, hearing a couple of the Pope songs on this new album, like Megan and Need You Around, the tempo is a little different, the arrangement's different. Is that just what it's like being in a power trio, or are those actually closer to how the songs were initially meant to be before the A&R process?
These, I would say neither. These are like total reinterpretations of the songs. The idea was to treat those Pope songs as if they were cover songs. You know, if we were to look at this album as a collection of covers, with an emphasis on the art of interpretation, is what we were trying to do, is take songs that have been interpreted a lot. Like if you take, you know, most of the songs on the album, My Funny Valentine, What Kind of Fool Am I?
Right.
I Only Have Eyes for You. These are songs you can find various versions out there. and during that era of the 40s, 50s, 60s, when people like Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland and Ella Fitzgerald were in their prime, that's what popular music was.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who were songwriters, and they were writing songs for the artists who were going to interpret that work. And if a song became popular, it was not uncommon for there to be a few different popular versions of it,
Right.
in the culture at the same time. And I think some of the greatest music ever made is people interpreting work that has been written by somebody else. I mean, that's the entire career of Frank Sinatra, and he's like one of the greatest musicians ever. So so with that in mind, I wanted to sort of keep that idea of interpretation going by doing modern interpretations of some of those old songs, and then taking some of my own songs and putting them side by side and reinterpreting those, thereby kind of bringing some of my own songs into the realm of, like, now this song is kind of liberated from the original Popes recording, and it has become something that can be looked at from different angles. And the intellectual property of the song remains intact, but it can be subject to many different interpretive versions.
So in other words, Josh Caterer to the Hideout Sessions is like Paul Stanley from Kiss for Soul Station. No, I'm kidding.
I've noticed that he's kind of doing the same thing right now. And I don't know if he's covering any Kiss songs on there. I haven't listened to the album. I've just seen a couple of the videos, like for Ooh Child, and
you do know this.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to that. I'm a fan. Kiss is one of the first bands I ever got into.
That was something I was always trying to figure out, because when people talked about the Smoking Popes, they always immediately went to the Morrissey Smiths thing. And you go like, okay, I guess. But then you guys did tour with Cheap Trick. And I always had to think that the hooky sensibility to what you did and the dual guitars that were driving, there had to have been some Kiss, Van Halen, Cheap Trick influence in the whole thing that was not really pronounced.
Don't forget Thin Lizzy. That's where we picked up most of the dual guitar influence.
Figured.
But Angus Young, Ace Frehley, I mean, these are people who definitely shaped our musical style a lot. And then you pick up the vocal style. I mean, I think I was a Smiths fan as a teenager and definitely sang along to the Smiths a lot. And I think that kind of helped shape my style. But even more so, I think it was listening to people like Frank Sinatra and Mel Torme and Nat King Cole and some of these old crooners.
Wow, all over the place, but in a good way. It's not like when you meet somebody and they go, "Oh, I listen to everything. I listen to," and then they'll have to do a quota where it's one hip hop artist, one soul artist, one horrible 80s thing. Not you, Josh. Well, then the last thing I want to ask about before my closer is you've had a very interesting parallel career to John Davis from Superdrag, in that, here you have a band that got signed around the same time in the alternative space with a name that's a reference in some way to smoking. You both had your A&R struggles. You toured with some of the same bands. You guys both found faith around the same time and went to faith-based music, and then reunited with your old band around the same time. And you both had difficulty kind of doing some of the old material due to it being contradictory to your faith, and then kind of went on hiatus around the same time. Have you encountered John, or is it just two circles going parallel without knowing each other?
I know John. We got connected with them in the 90s because we did an album that was produced by Jerry Finn.
Oh yeah, Destination Failure, is that?
Yes. And then the next album that he did after that was the Superdrag album, Head Trip
In every key. Yeah.
And while we were making Destination Failure, we were riding in a car with Jerry Finn, just driving around Los Angeles, and he had all these. He would get these tapes from his management of like, these are different bands that are, have been submitted to me to produce them. And he was like, always like, every time we were driving around, we were listening to different bands that he had to decide whether he wanted to work with them or not. And one day he put in Superdrag, and he was like, check these guys out. These guys I might work with them next, but what do you guys think? And he put in the song, Who Sucked Out the Feeling?
Yeah.
And we were just like, like immediately, as soon as it got to that first chorus, we were like, yes, Jerry, this is your next project. This is amazing. These guys, and so then soon after that, we ended up meeting those guys, and we had just like Jerry Finn stories to share with each other. And I've kept in contact with John occasionally. Like, I'll talk to him every couple of years. We'll kind of reach out to each other, and he's a great guy. Like,
yeah,
really just a wonderful person.
I'd have to imagine that between your album and Superdrag's album is how Blink-182 wound up working with Jerry, that he kind of saw, hey, these guys can make commercial, hooky music that's not complete BS A&R nightmare kind of stuff. Did that connection of Blink-182 ever hit your radar?
No, I never really followed that band. I know they had a couple of hits, but I just never listened to one of their records. It wasn't on my radar screen.
So I was right about the Superdrag thing, wrong about Blink-182. But anyway, my last two quick questions, or intend to be quick questions, Josh, because you've been generous with your time, is do you have a TV show that you could recommend to somebody who needs a new show to start?
Well, I'm currently rewatching season 5 of Better Call Saul, which is my favorite show ever. And I'm told that they have started production on the 6th and final season, which is exciting that they've gotten approval to get back to that. So I'm a fan, like I liked Breaking Bad, but I think Better Call Saul is a better show. I know that's a controversial opinion. Not everybody agrees with that.
It's actually a very common opinion these days.
It wouldn't surprise me that it's becoming more common. I think maybe the first couple of seasons of Better Call Saul, people were like, nah, Breaking Bad is better. Because Breaking Bad is a little like edgier and kind of faster. Even I feel like the editing or something, there's more camera movement, whereas Better Call Saul is more cinematic, with a lot of like static, wider shots that are just beautifully photographic in nature. And it feels more like it's paced more like a movie. Mm-hmm. So I think it took people some time to adjust to that, but now I see that they're winning all sorts of Emmy Awards and things like that, which there's so much depth to that show. It's incredible.
Who would have thought that the guy from Mr. Show would become one of the biggest actors, period?
I don't even think he believes it. Every time I've heard him on interviews, he's very self-conscious about himself as an actor. And understands that he's sort of, or at least he feels like he's sort of in over his head a little bit, but he's got good people around him. But when you've got that much natural talent,
later in life success, it generally guides you better than that being 18 years old like Vince Neil and getting that immediate one and being horrible by the time you're in your 30s. But what can you do?
Yeah.
My closer, Josh, any last words for the kids?
Oh, stay in school. Eat your broccoli and get vaccinated if you can. I'm gonna go get my first shot today.
Wow. Practicing what you preach there. Well, congrats again on the Hideout Sessions. Looking forward to everything that's coming for me in the near future, man. But so good to hear a live album that is not horrible audio quality and studio tweaked. You did not check either of those boxes with this one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your support, and I've enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you, Josh. Have a great rest of the day there. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Paltrocast.